I'm sick. And it's kind of annoying. Well, worst of all is I need to sleep. I'd like to be asleep. And yet I am not asleep. I took a half a Klonopin before bed last night to help me sleep, which it did through the middle of the night. And then I woke up with a fever. Took a couple ibuprofens, but ibuprofens are not ideal for me. Tylenol is, but I finished all the Tylenols. Hi, Syed Ahmed. Big yawn for little Eric. So, good morning, Boba Fett. We're definitely not having a particularly long stream. A cold, you know. According to Cameron, he has COVID. But it actually doesn't make any sense that I could have COVID because, at least according to what I've read, the incubation period is longer than that. Good morning, Kiara. Where am I from? I'm from California, in the United States. Up there, Yosemite. So anyway, I'm definitely feeling not so fresh. We could use some Summer's Eve by Massengill. Trouble. Trouble. Hey. Leave your sister alone. Alright. So, I'm going to avoid smoking bongs for a little while, get my chest cleared out, but I'm still gonna smoke cigarettes. That's just how I roll. So, it's true that smoking doesn't help when you're sick. But it's also true generally that it probably doesn't make that big of a difference. Historically, I've smoked through all of my colds and stuff. Okay, let's go to the garage. Oh, lordy, lordy. Okay. Oh, let Palestine go already. I didn't even know I was the one holding them hostage. Well, Pat, I love your reply. What's Palestine? Yeah, thank the heavens for tobacco rollies, indeed. Oh, I actually think I'm going to get another jacket to put on. Being sick sucks ass. I'm 6. I mean, I'm sick. 6 people like you, sir. You're not shopping and swimming or jogging. Fitness dancers? Yeah, I'm constantly shopping and swimming and jogging and fitness dancers. Yeah, I guess both of us never heard of Palestine. I mean, there's no country by that name. So, you can't blame him, right? There's no country with that name. Thanks, man, with a great machete. I hope I get better soon, too. I think it is. It must be a lot like polystyrene, I'm assuming. Well, I'm pretty sure Yunus Muhammad, that everybody here agrees that the burden is on Israel to let Palestine govern themselves without any terms or stipulations. It doesn't mean I support Palestine. It means Israel needs to stop this systemized violation of human rights, maintaining this certain apartheid state, you know? Yeah, apparently I have COVID. I don't know if I've actually COVID or not, but supposedly Cameron had COVID. He called me yesterday and said, "Hey, bro, just let you know I got COVID." But COVID supposedly has a 2-week incubation period. So if this is really COVID, then why didn't it take 2 weeks to kick in? And so anyway, I got a cold of some kind. I got a fever. I've got a cough. I've got runny nose. You know, and say the whole 9 yards of being sick. He's joking, Yunus Muhammad. He obviously knows what Palestine is. Boba Fett, you are really pushing the limits here. They're not squatting on their own land. If anybody's squatting, it's the Israelis. Yeah, don't huff bug spray, Boba Fett. It may get you high, but it's not good for you. Apparently, it makes you wrong about Palestine and Israel. If anyone's squatting, it's the Slavs. Actually, I think Indians from India's subcontinent, they do a lot of squatting. Yeah, Yanis Muhammad is correct. If anybody's squatting, it's the Israelis. Your bestie is Isaac Mizrahi, famous, um, famous designer. Thanks, Yanis Muhammad. I'll get better, and I hope you stay well. Yeah, Boba Fett, you should be an expert on squatting. Apparently, in India, they know how to poop better than we do here in the United States. That's what I've heard. Well, it's better for me to just get up, stay up for a couple hours, live stream. Hopefully, I'll be tired again after that. You can tell how an Aboriginal sits by their leg thigh diameter. Huh. Can you tell how I sit by my leg thigh diameter? I wonder, is there another thigh besides your leg thigh? Well, unfortunately, I'm not going to be doing any pooping here right now, thanks to my septic tank problems. Ugh. I feel like death is upon me, just like it was a pawn shop. And I had sold all of my stuff there and spent all the money long since. I once had a wife and a family, or at least a house in this place. Hey, Rachel's up. Look at that. She's obviously having a little trouble sleeping tonight too. Although I did sleep well for the beginning part of the evening. I woke up feverish again. I took a couple ibuprofen, but they just don't work as well as Tylenol for me. Kevin, I've got some bad news for you. Apparently, your soulmate, Elaine, has started to go out with somebody else. So you must not have been that Kevin, I guess. She's going out with, apparently, Chris Chapman. Yet another talking with famous people couple. Crazy, huh? We have a lot of couples come together on Talking with Famous People, actually. It's an excellent place to meet people because it's not explicitly in any way a place to meet people. So people can be more natural in their engagements with each other, let the process kind of play out more naturally, and, you know, hopefully meet their actual soulmate. Yeah, well, Kevin, I don't blame you. I know after I drew a picture of you as Elaine's soulmate, you probably thought, yes, I'm in. I'm in like Flynn. Unfortunately, she threw us all a curveball. So we just have to deal with that. Well, there's no good cartoons coming out today. Um, when I get back up again in like 7 hours and 8 hours or whatever, like 9 or 10 in the morning, I got a call. Kevin, I don't blame you for being at a loss. You had every reason to know that you were her soulmate. I drew you, but Elaine's proving that sometimes free will can be a little ornery. I was watching this Antiques Roadshow yesterday. Somebody had this like scrapbook of the Free Will Baptist Church. Which was an abolitionist church. In the back of the scrapbook, he had this letter from Frederick Douglass saying, basically, thank you, Free Will Baptist Church. When I first escaped from slavery, you people were the only people who helped. And I thought, how good must the Free Will Baptist Church feel to be so completely on the right side of history so early on? You know, that's how I feel a lot. But the problem is, I'm on the right side of history early on, but it's like I'm in that phase of 1830 or whatever. Good. I'm glad, KM. I hope you said, "You filthy whore!" Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. That's got to be the best thing to say to her. So, I think what I'll probably end up doing here actually is maybe I'll pull a bowl or two, even though I'm trying not to smoke so much at the moment. Oh, a harlot. Well, that's good. You misspelled it, but that's fine. It's actually Harlot. You wanton harlot. You TI showing off harlot. I don't know why, but for some reason I thought Chris Chapman was gay. I guess he's not. Because Elaine's not a dude. Serious question though, what do you look for in a compelling cartoon? I mean, it's got to be well written, you know? It's got to be well written. That's the bottom line. So, mostly the key issue for a good anime is pacing. You could get an anime that's exactly in my wheelhouse of taste. Like I tend to like isekais or Swords and Dragons cartoons, right? The But there's one called like My 9999 Shield Makes Me Go Into the Labyrinth, blah, 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 blah. I watch it every week, but it's not very good because even though it's exactly in my wheelhouse of tastes, it's just not paced well. I want to be surprised, excited, and moved. Like, two of my favorite cartoons are very moving cartoons, despite being also kind of action packed. Jobless Reincarnation 1 and 2 is genius. And it's a cartoon that ultimately is about a guy who is is becoming a fully realized human being after isekaiing from his like 30-year-old pervert self, 30-year-old virgin pervert self, right? And it's absolutely beautiful. It's stunningly powerful, wonderful. Um, Freer End, Journey's End is another one that's incredibly moving and powerful, but also really well paced and action packed. Because it's a great concept, right? It's about a an elf who outlived the party that she was with when they defeated the demon lord, and it's like 100 years later. Um, it's full of sort of existential wistfulness. It's great. Uh, but then you can also get good cartoons that are more just actiony if they're well paced. Jujutsu Kaisen is mostly action, but it's really well done, really well paced, really well drawn. It's great. But if you're a cartoonist, what I would really like to see you do is make my anime idea Isekai Police Force. And there's an Isekai Police Force. This job it is to go prevent people who've been Isekai to different worlds from getting too OP. Accordingly, of course, the people in the Isekai Police Force they can't be too OP themselves, but that can make it kind of challenging them for them to deal with the person, right? However, one of the people in the OP police force, like a lieutenant or something, she's actually secretly trying to become OP herself. So there ends up being kind of like a civil war in the Isekai police force. Anyway, I think that's a good idea for an anime. I'd like to watch that anime. I really love anime so much. I was excited when a Japanese person dropped in recently, yesterday, briefly. Although he probably is sick of everybody he meets going like, "Oh my god, I love anime so much." But I threw a bunch of Japanese expressions at him too, like "arigato gozaimasu" and "atakimasu" and "wakata," "wakarimashita," "so desu ka." All the things that people say in Japanese. Well, I can pretty much guarantee you that I am more of an expert on anime than Japanese people. I'm more of an otaku than otakus. So if there's some Japanese people out there who think like, oh hey, I'm Japanese, I'm the expert on anime. It's morning for me too. It's just 3 in the morning. Yeah, I would like to be asleep. Well, a lot of people would call me a weeb because they'd say, well, you're not Japanese, Eric. That makes you a weeb. They forget that I'm fluidly transracial. Oh, well, I'm an otaku then for sure. I had a Japanese friend at camp that would say Monko, Monko, Monko all the time. He was 12. I don't know what Monko means. If he said Mota, 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 it means more, more, more. If he had said Kage no Buchin Jutsu, it would mean he was casting a shadow clone jutsu. But anyway, I don't really speak Japanese, but I know a lot of terms because I've watched so much anime. Can't help but pick up some terms here and there. You know, like here in America, back when Styx came out with their album, Marty Son and Gilbert Son are proper weed bosses. I don't even know who they are. But I'm guessing prevented. He was 12. I didn't speak Japanese. Hmm. So, I don't even read mangas. I'm only into anime. But there's no anime to be into right now. Oh, perverted. That makes more sense. Perverted than prevented. That does make a lot more sense. Obviously, I'm not that into being sick, but I also don't feel really that sick right now. Just like sick enough to be annoying. Oh no, Japanese are definitely ethnocentric. If you aren't Japanese, you aren't Japanese. It's like the opposite of America, right? You're born here, you're American. Period. In Japanese, you've got people who've been living in Japan who are of Korean ancestry for generations, and they still have Korean passports. How crazy is that? Japan has businesses, bars, and stuff that are Japanese people only allowed in there. I think it's because they're embarrassed about how weird they are. That's what I think. It's like maid cafe where Japanese people call you like master and stuff. It's just ridiculous. I'd be embarrassed of that shit too if I were Japanese. They do some ridiculous things. Yeah, they also caused the. Oh, you mean talking about the rape of Nanking? Yeah, well, obviously, Japan needed to have an attitude adjustment by way of a couple of nuclear bombs. It seems to have fixed them. Sort of. It's like, all right, Japan. Enough with your, like, we won't surrender no matter what shit. We are going to nuke you now, and just too bad, motherfuckers. Yeah, pre World War II, Japan was horrible. And World War II, Japan. But post World War II Japan, they learned a few things. We said, Japan, yeah, we're gonna nuke you. Bomb in Pearl Harbor. The gall. Those fucking guys, right? At some point, we just had to say, hey, knock it off. You knock it off right now, Japan. And they did. I just refuse to understand, though. I don't accept that it was a good idea for us to let Japan keep their emperor. We should have hung him in a public square. Hung him by the neck, hanged him by the neck till dead. And we should have had the Japanese people all go hit him with a stick like he was a piñata until all his intestines poured out on the ground. Or flan, maybe. It depends what he's filled with. Hirohito. We should have made the Japanese people stone him to death. Come on, you little fucks. You want to kill everybody all the time. So yeah, I'm a little mad at General MacArthur. Who wouldn't be? Who wouldn't be a little mad at General MacArthur? I was an obnoxious nightmare and rude to everyone? You mean the Japanese? Or you mean me? I'm not being rude to everyone when I say the United States should have killed Hirohito. Why do the leaders get to live, And all these people, they die in pursuit of Emperor's War. Why does he get to live? I don't like that. Hitler didn't. Mussolini didn't. What's up with that, I think it's a fair question. Oh, yeah, Juan's a little bit of a troll. But he gave me excellent advice the other day, which I followed and I'm very happy with. He advised me to get a vape pen that you can scoop in concentrate to. I didn't even know I didn't even know those things existed. And Rachel's much happier with her vape pen now that it's not just those shitty cartridges that you buy. So, I'm pretty pleased with that. It was a very helpful one. In fact, you're getting a wonder point for it. I give you a wonder point for that. It's Thursday, so wonder point values are not doubled. But how long will it be until I until I'm ready to go back to sleep? So Padawan Rangeman says, ever since I watched Attack on Titan, no anime compares and it ruined my desires to watch anything. Please recommend something. I mean, I would recommend, well, what I'm going to put here is a link to my top 20, right, my top 20 animes since 2020. Okay. Meow yourself, meowy pants. No, I don't want that person to be an editor. I don't want them to change my list of top 20. I have not seen Geno Cyber. So there's a link to my top 20 anime of the 2020s. I'll go top 10 down. Unwanted, Undead Adventure, Solo Leveling, Mashal, Magic and Muscles, Hell's Paradise, Blue Lock, Jujutsu Kaisen, Song Spider, So What, Jobless Reincarnation, Apothecary Diaries, Free and Beyond Journey's End. I would also highly recommend, although it didn't start in the 2020s, I was reincarnated as a slime. That one's excellent. Lily Cats is an interesting body horror anime type movie. Never heard of it. Uh, well, I definitely feel sick. There's no disputing that. Um, but, I gotta say, I also feel like it's like my body may be doing a pretty good job of fighting it off right now. I just need another 6 hours of sleep or whatever. I wish I had gabapentins. I'm never really in a huge hurry to get the gabapentins, but they really help me sleep. Ugh. All right, so I think what we're gonna do is this. I think we'll go out to the garage again, have another health tube, come back in here, hit my inhaler, and then maybe go to bed, and tell everybody a bedtime story. People love bedtime stories because it helps them to go to sleep. Maybe it helps me go to sleep too. That's certainly plausible. I look like $1 million that got thrown out the moonroof in an open briefcase on the highway at 88 miles an hour. So, I guess what you're saying is that I look all spread around. Hi, Yo. How's it going today? It's going suboptimally for me, but who knows? Sleazy One tends to be a little provocative, Uncle Fatty. I suggest not letting it bother you. I'm happy. I'm very happy, but at the moment I'm sick. And I don't like being sick, obviously. So that makes me a little unhappy, I guess. But uh, more, it just makes me frustrated, impatient. I've got a lot of stuff to do in the next few days, and we've encountered a succession of problems here that I have to solve. One of the problems, of course, is that I got sick. The other one, I got flat tire yesterday. Our septic tank needs to be pumped. I found that out yesterday. The septic tank people didn't call me back. We need to get that fixed like pronto, like a plumbing thing. It's not like we can just live with not being able to use the toilets. Am I totally out of cigarettes? Oh no. I knew I had at least one left, yeah. Smoke this partial. Wow. I can just feel the sickness all throughout my body. So, I'm not sure what bedtime story I'm going to tell, but I think I'll include, um, I'll include an exciting bedtime story when we go in there. Maybe it'll be a story about discovering Sasquatch. I'm a little feverish too. Maybe that'll help make the story more interesting. All right, I'm gonna go back in the house. I'm gonna hit my inhaler, and then I'm gonna turn things down off. Go pee in the sink, and I'm trying not to flush the toilet right now. And then we'll go have a bedtime story. I think all of you are going to feel a lot of satisfaction at being storied to sleep. Power through the illness. All right, so we got Yunus Muhammad, Sleazy Juan, Padawan Rangebender. Got a few people present. I tend to like to include people present. Boba Fett's here. Uncle Fatty might still be here. I like to include people present in the story I'm telling. Boba Fett is a serious regular, Eunice. He's unlikely to go anywhere. If I live stream 24 hours a day, I think Boba Fett would be here 24 hours a day. Well, I think, Eunice, it's fair to say that you don't like him. I don't think it's fair to say that no one likes him. Boba Fett getting saucy. It's a snappy retort, Boba Fett. I'll give you that. That is a snappy retort. All right, fine. Before we go to bed, I'll watch you eat some more. Go ahead. Eat your food. Yes, you're a silly boy. Daddy knows. So I think my story will begin like this. Yunus Muhammad and Boba Fett were hanging out one day playing racquetball, when all of a sudden, Sleazy Juan walked in. Hey guys, what's going on? Said Sleazy Juan. Not much, said Boba Fett. I'm trying to beat Boba Fett at racquetball, said Eunice. Because I hate him so much. And obviously, Sleazy Juan said, well, why do you want to hang out with him? And it was just then the Padawan Rangebender came over and said, hey guys, what's going on? And they said, Padawan Rangebender? What are you doing here? He said, I'm here to get you guys to go find the Yeti. And Sleazy Juan said, I thought we were going to find Sasquatch. And Boba Fett chimes in, well, Yeti is the Sasquatch of the Eastern Hemisphere. And then someone said, hold on, isn't there only a Southern and Northern Hemisphere? And then someone else said, shut up. All right, let's go pee and then let's go have bedtime story. Leo DeLeon and Lady in Red are here. All right, so I gotta pee for bread. So let's go pee in here. As mentioned, I am avoiding flushing the toilets right now because of our septic situation, so I'm just gonna pee in the sink. which is just the right height for me. I'm 6'5", so uh, the sink is like just at the height where my nuts hang down to. My wiener. My wiener agreeably hangs down a little further, so it just goes directly into the sink very conveniently. That's the convenience of sink peeing. Okay? It's the sort of thing that can bring all the world together in perfect harmony. If we want to end the conflict in the Middle East between the Palestinians and the Israelis, we need to get them all to start peeing in sinks. It's the way, the truth, and the light. All right. Cats. I'm so sorry. What are you so sorry about? What did you do? Did you commit genocide again? I've told you about that before, cats. You're not supposed to commit genocide. Lady in red. Take out my sweats. Don't worry, I've got boxers on. A little bit less revealing than bone huggers in case you should happen to catch an accidental glance, but I shall try to avoid that as much as possible. Here. I'm going like this. It should help. Okay. So now it is story time. Let's bring this a little closer so that you can hear better, hopefully. There. Now it's gonna be dark, but I don't want you to be scared, okay? There. Now it's nice and dark. So, anyway, as I was saying, Boba Fett was playing racquetball with Yunus Muhammad one day, and Padawan Rangebender and Sleazy Wan show up. And they start talking about this expedition to find the Yeti out in the Himalayan mountains. And then all of a sudden, Padawan Rangebender said, "Wait, is that Nancy Reagan?" And Boba Fett's like, "I think maybe." Then as she walked closer, everyone said in unison, "No, it's Lady in Red." And she's like, "Guys, listen. If we're going to find the Yeti, we're going to have to do a better job than your current approach, okay? You don't even have a plan. You just say, let's go to the Himalayas and find the Yeti. That's not a plan. You're never going to find any Yetis that way." And so Padawan Rangebender's like, "Well, what do you think we should do?" And then Sleazy Wan's like, "Shut up, you're stupid." And Eunice is like, "Just ignore him. Just ignore Sleazy Wan. He's just being a dick." And Lady in Red said, "All right, look, here's the plan. I'm going to go buy a small private jet. And when I come back, I want you guys to all be packed up, okay? When I get back here, I do not want this racquetball game to be continuing. Because as soon as I get this plane, we are out of here, okay? So, all the guys kind of grumbled. They're like, fine, fine. So, Lady in Red, they were in India right now because that's where they were playing racquetball, Boba Fett and Yunus Muhammad. And so, begrudgingly, the guys all packed their bags and stuff. Pretty soon, Lady in Red was back and said, okay, everybody get in the taxi. We're going to the airport. And they went to the airport and they all got on this new Lear jet that she had purchased. And she said, all right, pilot, take us to the Himalayas. And so they were all riding on the plane and they were like, all right, well, do we have accommodations or whatever in the Himalayas, like a hotel set up already? And she's like, I've got a surprise for you. They said, well, what is the surprise? And she said, just wait and find out. So Sleazy Juan was getting pretty drunk on the plane. You know, they had a private stewardess lady who came around and gave everybody drinks they wanted on. Boba Fett also was getting pretty sauced. And then Lady in Red's like, okay, you guys need to stop drinking right now. I said, well, why? And she said, because we're about at our destination. And they're like, but we haven't even gone down altitude yet. We're still like at 30,000 feet. She's like, well, that's the surprise. We're going to parachute out of the plane down onto the Himalayas. And that's how we're gonna get a quick entrance into Yeti territory. So Yunus Muhammad said, well, look, I never agreed to any of this jumping out of a plane shit. And she's like, well, too bad, because I got another secret for you. And they're like, yeah, what's that? She's like, this plane has no pilot. He already parachuted out. And then Boba Fett said, well, what about the stewardess lady? And she's like, oh, don't worry about me. I'm going to parachute out a little bit later. And the plane will just crash into the ocean. And I said, well, that makes sense. So all the guys, they accepted that, yeah, obviously now we're going to have to parachute out of this plane. So they put on their parachutes and stuff. And none of them had ever skydived before. But Lady in Red wasn't hearing any pussy stuff. She was like, I don't want to hear about it. This is where we are. This is what's going down. Just remember, wait till you're about, I don't know, like 15,000 feet before you pull the chute. We're not trying to get to the top of Everest, we're trying to land on the side of that mountain over there. You can see it out the window. And, Sleazy One's like, well, why did you pick that mountain? And Lady in Red said, well, because look very carefully. And then she handed him some binoculars. And he looked through them. He's like, where? I don't see. She said, there. And then he spotted it. What appeared to be a Yeti on the side of the mountain. And so Boba Fett's like, well, how did you know it was going to be there? And Yunus Muhammad said, I still don't want to jump out of this plane. And Lady in Red said, well, what if I told you, Yunus Muhammad, that once we get on the ground, I promise you plenty of pork and alcohol. And he's like, pork and alcohol? I'm Muslim, okay? I don't eat pork and alcohol. And she said, well, I've solved that problem. And he's like, what do you mean? She said, I've brewed my own pork alcohol. Here, have a sip. And then she poured some right down his throat before he could even notice what was going on. And he's like, oh my God, that's so delicious. And then Lady in Red said, okay, everybody, it's time to jump out of the plane. So they opened the door to the plane and they jumped out of the plane. And Sleazy Juan's like, okay, so when am I supposed to pull this thing? And Lady in Red said, I can't hear you. We're falling so fast and it's so windy out. And he's like, I said, when are we supposed to pull the thing? And she's like, pull the thing. And he misunderstood and he pulled the thing. But he was still like 25,000 feet. Um, anyway, he was really cold all the way down because he only had a light jacket. He had a windbreaker and a long sleeve shirt underneath that, and that was it. So anyway, when they finally all got down to the ground, Boba Fett, Lady in Red, Yunus Muhammad, Padawan Rangebender, they were all in one place together. But not Sleazy Juan, though. I mean, Sleazy Juan, he was much further away because he had pulled his chute too early and he had blown about 6 miles away from the other people. Fortunately, he had with him, just happened to have in his pocket, because he just sometimes carries one around, a flare. And so he shot that up into the air and it made a big red thing in the sky. And Lady in Red's like, there, that's where Sleazy Juan is. And Padawan Rangebender is like, what? How are we going to get across this crevasse? And, Boba Fett said, leave that to me. And he started gathering some pieces of blocks of ice. And very carefully, very gradually, he built an arch all the way across the crevasse with ice blocks. So everybody started walking across the bridge, and they all remarked, Boba Fett, how did you possibly do this without any access to the other side? And he said, physics, everybody, physics. But nobody understood what he meant because it didn't make any sense. Anyway, they finally found Sleazy Juan. And he was complaining about how he was almost dead from hypothermia. So Padawan Rangebender said, get your panties out of your crotch, Sleazy Juan. You're fine. And they built a fire, and Sleazy Juan warmed himself over the fire until he felt a little bit better. But he said, listen, it's like 0 degrees out here, and all I have on is a long sleeve shirt and a light windbreaker. And Lady in Red said, well, why don't you get something else out of your luggage? And he said, I didn't bring it from the plane. And Padawan Rangebender's like, oh, Sleazy Juan. And everyone put their hands on their hips. Boba Fett said, here, you can borrow this bulky sweater I have. I got it from an INFP one time. So he lent Sleazy Juan a bulky sweater. And now they were okay, but it was getting down to around sunset. So Padawan Rangebender said, we need to find a place to spend the night. We don't have any tents or anything. And Yunus Muhammad said, look, there's an ice cave over there. So everybody went into the ice cave. And Yunus Muhammad said, oh no, we don't have any way to start a fire. And Sleazy Juan's like, yes, we do. And he busted out several lighters and also like a torch lighter that you fill with butane, but it's kind of got like a mini torch on it. And then Lady in Red said, "Oh no, but we don't have any wood though." And then Boba Fett said, "Fear not." And he busted out from his back pocket a bunch of logs. And Padawan Rangebender said, "Why do you have all these logs in your pocket?" And Boba Fett says, "I never go anywhere without logs. You never know when you're going to need a log." And everybody said, that's true. And they nodded knowingly. So, once they piled up some logs, Sleazy Wan passed around a couple of his lighters, used the torch when they all tried to light it at the same time. After a little bit of effort, because they weren't that small logs, Boba Fett had neglected to bring any kindling. Um, they finally got it lit, and Sarah, I mean, the lady in red, I don't know why I called her Sarah. Maybe her name's Sarah, who knows? Anyway, lady in red said, "I've got some good news." And I said, "What? What kind of good news do you have?" And she busted out a package of hot dogs. Said, "I brought food for us." So they still didn't have any sticks, though, not good sized sticks to put their hot dogs on to cook them. So they ended up just kind of cooking them on the hot rocks that were near the fire. That seemed to work pretty well. And Yunus Muhammad said, "Hold on a second. These hot dogs have pork in them." And everyone said, "Just eat it already. Enough with your I don't eat pork stuff. Why do you think we have pigs? So they can just oink." Muhammad had to agree that made sense. And he just had some hot dogs and he's like, "You know what? Fuck this whole not eat pork thing." So that was progress for everybody. Then the next morning, they wake up and they say, "Okay, now we need to look for the Yeti, right?" So Boba Fett says, "Well, let me go scout out a little bit out front. Does anybody have any whiskey?" And Sleazy One's like, "Well, I just got this pint in my back pocket, but I'm not sure I want to share it with you." Boba Fett's like, "Just give me a quick drag off of it." And Sleazy One's like, "All right." And he hands Boba Fett the pint. And Boba Fett just drinks like half of it all in one drink. And Sleazy One grabs it back from him and says, "Hey, why are you drinking all my whiskey?" And Boba Fett says, "Because I was hung over. Okay? Now I feel better." And Padawan Rangebender says, "I'll go scout around. You're useless." So he went and scouted around outside. He said, "Okay, well, I spotted what I think are some Yeti tracks just about 5 feet away from the entrance to our cave." I'm like, "Wow, that's great." So they went out and looked at the Yeti tracks, and they're like, "Okay, let's follow them." So they walk a couple miles. They're following these up this rocky thing. They have to do a little bit of rock climbing sometimes. It's all snow and ice, you know. And then they come around this corner and they see another ice cave. And Yunus Muhammad says, "Do you smell that?" And they all smell the air and it's like, "Yeah, what is that smell?" Kind of like a wet dog smell. And Yunus says, "No, that's the smell of Yeti." So Boba Fett, who's a little bit drunk, says, "Well, I'll go in there and see what's going on." And so he walks in, and then the people outside, they're like, they hear this, and then silence. No sign of Boba Fett. So Sleazy One's like, "You're up next, Eunice. Go on in and see what happened." And Eunice says, "Why am I up next?" And Padawan Rangebender says, "Because we're going in reverse alphabetical order." And why? is towards the end. And Eunice said, well, if we were going in reverse alphabetical order, then why is it the case that Boba Fett went first? And, you know, Lady in Red said, well, because he doesn't go by it, but his first name is actually Zebra. So Eunice couldn't object to that. And he said, fine then, I'll go next. He goes into the cave. And again, they hear this. And silence. No sign of it. And so then Sleazy Wand and Padawan Rangebender say, you know what? This really isn't worth it. Let's get out of here. And Lady in Red's like, no, we came all this way. We need to at least get some video of it so I can make a short for YouTube. And they all had to agree with that. So they huddle together closely, and they all approach the cave entrance together. And as soon as they enter in, they see that this Yeti is eating the corpse of Yunus Muhammad. Boba Fett's already been eaten, and all that's left are some of his hair and his shoes. And there's just blood all down the front of the Yeti. And so all three remaining people, Sleazy Wand, Lady in Red, and Padawan Rangebender, scream. And the Yeti turns and hears them, starts running towards them. Lady in Red says, listen, Padawan Rangebender, you go left. Sleazy Wand, you go right. And so, for whatever reason, they just listen to her. And the Yeti runs off after Sleazy Wand, grabs him, and starts eating him. Meanwhile, Lady in Red is sprinted out of the cave, and she has, unbeknownst to her fellows, she has attached to her back an folding up hang glider, which she unfolds and jumps off the mountain and hang glides away. She turns back one last time to see that Padawan Rangebender is having his head bitten off. And she said, well, 1 out of 5 survivors ain't bad. Let me go back to talking with famous people and find some more Yeti expedition compatriots. Maybe next time. The end. So I hope you enjoyed that wonderful story. And now I'm going to try to go back to sleep. Good night, good luck, and good morning.